Hello everyone, I'm Strife, and even though it came out a while ago, these are my thoughts on the game, The Last of Us. The Last of Us was a game I didn't really anticipate. It was on my radar, I knew it was coming out, and I played it when it was new, but I didn't really have any solid expectations for it. At most, I thought I was going to get a clone of Naughty Dog's prior series, Uncharted, but with a much more somber tone. While the game turned out to be mostly just that, it managed to catch me unaware on several occasions, but none more than the ending, and not in a good way. After thinking it through though, I suppose I expected Naughty Dog to do something different with The Last of Us when it came to writing. And yet, they didn't. None of what I'm about to say is really spoiler, but if you're overly sensitive to even vague hints, then here's your warning. Leave now. The Last of Us concludes in a very unoriginal way. This is really what caught me off guard the most. I was very surprised when nothing out of the ordinary happened. Things ended with nothing gained or lost, yet plenty had happened. I originally wanted to do some sort of review over this game not long after it came out, but after finishing it, I didn't really know how I felt about it. I sat on it for several months, and I ended up thinking about how I evaluate games. I realized that even though I thoroughly enjoyed The Last of Us and about 95% of its story, what I got was the same basic story structure of the Uncharted games. The major difference, though, was how in the Uncharted franchise it was okay for each game to have an ending that was a bit bland, because it took a back seat to the high-flying action and adventure that the game focused on. The Last of Us does about the same thing, except it trades a good amount of the crazy action for a more unusual world setup and an emphasis on stealth. The world setup and gameplay were exactly what I was anticipating, but I wasn't expecting a strong, story-driven game set in a world where each action matters a lot to have an ending that lacks impact. This is what initially confused me and gave me mixed feelings when I finished The Last of Us. I was not satisfied with the ending, but at the same time, I couldn't deny how fervently I played through the game, enjoying every encounter and the planning I put into each action. That is what I had to sit on, a conflict of opinions of how the game played out. But once I figured out what was troubling me and why, I asked myself, what mattered more to me? The gameplay, the story, or the ending? The simple breakdown is I loved the gameplay, I thoroughly enjoyed the story, but I felt let down by the ending. This has happened before with other games, but I've never felt such a stark contrast between the elements, the gameplay and story being great, but the ending feeling what I define as subpar. And this letdown is much more significant when the other two elements are so strong. Yet, at the same time, the experience has taught me something. The Last of Us, with its conflict of good gameplay, good story, and a lackluster ending, forced me to reconsider how I evaluate games. Never before have I felt so conflicted over a game's quality, and in this case, it's because the game truly defines the saying, "The journey is the destination." That's my entire problem. It's where all the conflict comes from. The ending shouldn't matter, because the rest of the game is great, and it's a quality experience. But at the same time, the ending, that feeling of closure, the idea that everything you went through, every brick you threw, every shot you fired, every human you killed to survive, and all the effort you put in to not only endure the journey, but also to live on after it. For some reason, all the effort, all the accomplishments, they don't feel as substantial when the ending doesn't validate them. In the end, I just can't say that I'd recommend The Last of Us, because while for some games, the saying, "the journey is the destination" is true, I just felt that the journey was stolen when the destination turned out to be false. I know many of you will disagree, but that's how I feel. I'm Strife, and that's my afterthoughts on The Last of Us.